I said Nigeria is on its way to Sudan. For the past 2-3 weeks, there are killings, maimings by pastoralists across different states in Nigeria. Benue, Plateau State, Ondo State has been the worst hit all over the world, all over Africa. And you need to understand, all over Nigeria, that this is not a mistake. It is a problem that has been going on all across West Africa. And we need to properly understand that a big storm is gathering. And that big storm is surely going to change the course of history. A lot of Africans, especially Nigerians, I am sorry to say this, do not understand what is about to happen to them. I know a lot of us love Nigeria. A lot of us want this country to work. But we are not ready to do what needs to be done in order to salvage Nigeria. Nigeria does not need a messiah. Nigeria does not need a somebody that only puts on one pair of shoes. Nigeria does not, to be specific, Nigeria does not need a northern president, a Fulani president, or an Igbo president. Nigeria even does not need a Nigerian president. Nigeria needs somebody that is ready to prevent the future bloodshed that will destroy and engulf this country and destroy it. That is what Nigeria needs. But unfortunately, like those that have been destined for destruction, Nigeria continues to drive itself towards this certain destruction. Nigeria continues to head to the rocks. Nigeria continues to be, Nigeria needs to continue, Nigeria is edging towards destruction. A lot of things I'll be saying today is not because I hate any ethnicity, I hate any religion, I hate any region. Because Nigeria is a country where people use emotional gaslighting to avoid being called out and to avoid their group to be called out for the evil they perpetrate in Nigeria. Words like bigotry, gaslighting, and all the rest has been used as a form of evading accountability. Now, the question we need to ask ourselves, you go to Mali, the pastoralists, sometimes of Arab origin, Fulani origin, Tuareg origin, are fighting indigenous people who are mostly blacks. You go to Burkina Faso, the pastoralists, the Fulanis, Arabs, they are fighting indigenous people for land, for water, and for political power. It's the bitter truth. You go to Niger Republic, the same problem. You go to Central African Republic, pastoralists are fighting indigenous black people for land, for power, and for the control of their land. And oftentimes, there's always a form of, they are persecuting us. There's always a form of, there's also a religious dimension. Because there are some countries in the Middle East that are known for supporting non-state actors. There are countries in the Middle East that are known for supporting terrorists. They are known for supporting, armed insurgents. And for some of these groups to get funding, they pledge allegiance to them. So that is why you see it is just a geopolitical leverage. But oftentimes, most of the problem, the killings that is currently going on and we call terrorism is ethnic. Is ethnic. The killings in Plateau State is an ethnic problem. The killings in Benue State is an ethnic problem. The killings in Edo State, where pastoralists are kidnapping and killing indigenous people, is ethnic. The killings in Ondo State, in Oyo State, is ethnic. Because how can just one ethnicity, one ethnic group, declare war against the rest of us? And I think West Africa is a joke. West Africa is a joke because the destruction and the insecurity that that has characterized Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger Republic, even Central African Republic, Northern Cameroon, has been one of the reasons why there has been political instability, political chaos, poverty, multidimensional poverty, rape, abuse of women, displacement of people from their homeland in their millions. And when you have this kind of a problem, when you have this kind of a situation, when you have this kind of political instability, and it is still the pastoralists that is being mentioned that are creating this damage in more than 6 countries. And none of these countries have been able to solve these problems. Then it's either that West Africans are incapable of solving any problem in the 21st century. Because what we are dealing with is war, terrorism on a scale never seen before. And we need to actually understand what is going on. I'm not going to come here and be speaking like, when you see the way some of the many people are speaking. I saw this particular man that was saying, when Buhari wanted to give Ruga, we are saying this. How do you say that for killings to stop, you need to give up your indigenous lands in order to placate the people that are killing you for peace? How is that peace? And it is because we've refused to talk about the problems. And many of this chaos did not start 20, 30 years ago. The fight between nomads, Fulani nomads, Tuareg nomads, Arab nomads, for the past 300, against indigenous people is more than 500 years. In North Africa, in Central Africa, and in West Africa. It did not start yesterday. It did not start 10 years ago. It is a civilization clash. And we are not trying to be warmongering. I'm going to paint a scenario to you so that you can understand. I'm still going to discuss Sudan. But I need you to understand West Africa at first. Because many of you, especially those of you in Port Harcourt, in Lagos, Ibadan, you are just going to, those of you in big cities. You still don't understand that within 1 month, some people can march into your cities and, declare Sharia law like they did in Timbuktu, in Gao, in Jenne, in all those places in Mali, in 2014, 2015. And there's nothing you are going to do. It has happened before in Afghanistan. I was watching a news of some people that were, doing rap music in Kabul a week before the Taliban, conquered Afghanistan. I saw the president of Afghanistan saying that everything is okay. People should go about their business. Everything is okay. And within 1 week, the man was looted millions of dollars, starched his private jet, and ran away to Dubai with his entire family. And since then, we've not heard anything about him. So what I'm trying to tell you is that with the current situation in West Africa, the entire West Africa is no longer safe. And Nigeria has been able to survive thus far due to the grace of God and due to the resources and the tenacity of Southerners. It's the bitter truth. It's the bitter truth. We have a problem in the core north that the core north will not be able to solve. And because of the politicking, politics, I cannot blame politicians. Because politicians, it's a profession. They invest billions and billions into it. We don't have statesmen in Nigeria anymore. Ever since the coup of 1966. Most of the people that turned into statesmen many of them are not statesmen. They are opportunists. These are just soldiers with guns and ammunition, and they entrench themselves into power. And that's all. That's what they've done in Nigeria. It's the bitter truth. Many of them are big time, ethnic supremacists. And we've seen the way they did with the creation of states. And I also want to say something. For those of you that are historians, if you look at state creation and how states were created in Nigeria, you are going to see there is a big similarity between state creation in Nigeria and how the Soviet Union was done. So if you look at during the Soviet Union, how many different republics, like the Armenian Republic, the Azerbaijan Republic, all those little enclaves, and they were doing cut and join. They will take some Russian ethnic Russians, put them in some places in order to be able to sabotage and destroy and do a kind of divide and conquer. So that's the way many states in Nigeria were created. States like Kwara State, Kogi State, Benue State, Bauchi, Gombe, Kebbi, Kaduna, states like that, Taraba, Adamawa, it was just divide and conquer. Though the issue of ethno-linguistic federalism was bastardized in that place. They did it in order to be able to erase some ethnicities and destroy any form of Middle Belt nationalism, where the unconquered regions in that area of the Middle Belt and the North Central will be conquered and be destroyed via political statecraft, via social engineering. So that's why a lot of people believe, and it worked. If not for social media, and maybe some people are able to read and understand their history. You see anybody from Kaduna, what comes next to your mind is, Aboki. You see anybody from Kogi, what's next? You see anybody else from Kogi, what next comes to you is, Aboki. You see somebody that bears Tolulope from Kogi, and you see an average Yoruba Gen Z. We think anybody from Kogi is a full animal, is an Hausa man. He doesn't know. He doesn't know that 1/3 of Kogi State is Yoruba land, and he's going to be arguing with you publicly. That is what we call statecraftship. That is what they do with social engineering. And I'm sorry to say this, a lot of Nigerians have lost their minds. So they think 4 years election is going to solve their problem. That's why some of us we cannot even, I don't want to use the word hate. We cannot stand the obedient mobs, because we know that is another den of evil groups, evil people. If you see, I understand, I see an Igbo man in the obedient movement. I understand what is there. He's there to project Igbo power. It's normal. Because Nigeria is winner takes all. It is a bitter truth. Even though the elites are still amassing wealth for themselves, but there's still an ethnic dimension. If you play the wrong politics in Nigeria, you will be annihilated. You will be destroyed. There are examples. in history as regards to that? How many people know that we have indigenous ethnic Igalas in Enugu and Anambra? You don't know. You cannot know because they've used state power to crush them. And many of them have even lost their indigenous Igala identity, and they are not calling themselves Igbo. That's the bitter truth. It's everywhere. I'm not trying to say this is what it is, but Nigeria does not guarantee your survival. You need to fight for your survival. Now let's talk about Sudan. As I'm talking about Sudan, I'll be comparing and contrasting Nigeria. And I don't want to use a big political jargon. I will say I will be juxtaposing Nigeria and Sudan. Sudan is a North African country geopolitically. And it used to be called, the meaning of Sudan means the land of the black people. Now ask yourself, how does the land of the black people become an Arab country? How does the land of the black people become an Arab country? The killings that has been happening in Plateau, Benue, did not start yesterday. And we saw it under Babangida, we saw it under Abacha, we saw it under Obasanjo, we saw the same madness under Jonathan. Same thing, the killings went to a different level, a different proportion under Buhari, and it's also happening under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And I am sorry to say this, I am not a prophet of doom. I do not think the political class are interested in solving the problem. By 2031, if the political class continue on this trajectory, it's going to continue unabated. And we know what is going to happen. So how do we know what is going to happen? What is going to happen is what we've seen in Congo, what we've seen in Sudan, and what we've seen unfold in Mali, Burkina Faso, and what we've seen unfold specifically in places like the northwest and the northeast of Nigeria. So Sudan, I can talk about the history of Sudan for the next 5 hours. I can speak on the history of Sudan for the next 5 to 10 hours. And I know a lot of you, many of you did not study politics, political sciences. You did not study you didn't even study social sciences. Many of you are just science students or normal or business students. So I'm going to try as much as possible to compress what I'm trying to pass across into few lines of history in 20-30 minutes. Sudan means the land of the blacks, like I said. It used to be places where we have the Kush civilization, the Kushites, the Nubians. When you read, some of you read in the Bible, you read in several literatures, historical literatures, archaeological findings, the Nubians used to be in that part. When they say you are beautiful, Nubian beauty, that was how beautiful that place is, the indigenous people of that place. And there are even more pyramids in Sudan than there are more pyramids in Egypt. That is how beautiful and how wonderful Sudan was. And that place called Sudan. But how did Sudan become and from being part of the Egyptian civilization, the civilization along the Nile, Sudan, later on, that area of Sudan, Kushite, was a bastion of Christian civilizations and Christian empires. So if many people do not know, for close to 600, 700 years, the entire Egypt axis, Sudan axis were Christian enclaves. The indigenous people were Christian enclaves. Just like how it spread in Eritrea and Ethiopia. All those axes were Christian enclaves. So what happened? The conquest started and the Arabization started. So the Arabization and the invasions coming from the Middle East, from the Arabian Peninsula, the Umayyad Caliphate, Fatimid, and they started coming in, and a lot of Arabs were coming in to intermarry with the indigenous people. And despite the fact that Egypt had already fallen and become part of the Arab Islamic Empire since the 6th and 7th AD, that area of Sudan was still largely independent. But between 15th and 16th century, a large number of Arab pastoralists, when I mean Arab pastoralists, goat rearers, and camel rearers were coming in, and they were circling. They were circling in Sudan. So as they were circling in Sudan, and they were in that area called Sudan, they were changing the demography, and gradually some different indigenous black groups like the Darfur, the Masalites, started embracing the Arabs, intermarrying with them. In fact, some of them even, they started changing the history. Now, this is where it's scary, and you need to pay attention. Sir, Amas. There was a particular empire called the Funch Empire. It was mostly indigenous blacks, Nilotic black people. I know these people, they've been there for thousands of years. They themselves started changing their history. And when they changed their history to the Arab, and they call it the Arab. They started saying that their descendants came from Saudi Arabia, from Arabian Peninsula. Does that ring a bell? So you see people like Oluwo of Iwo, and other miscreants writing books that Oduduwa is from Mecca. That Oduduwa, the Yoruba people are from Mecca, we are from Arabia. It is not a mistake of history. It is intentional. It is for conquest. It is to Arabize, it is to erase, it is to destroy the originality and the soul of a people. It's not different from what people saw when we've seen Igbo intellectuals. We've seen the Obi of Onisha claiming that they are the indigenous people and owners of Ile-Ife, that Oduduwa was an Igbo man. It's not different. It is an intentional trying to rewrite the history of a people. When you rewrite the history of a people and try to geopolitical erase and appropriate their existence, you are softening their mind for conquest in the future. And all we know, what many people have been battling and fighting, are the revisionism coming from Benin and the revisionism coming from Northwest, that Oduduwa is from Ekaladea, or the rubbish that Oduduwa is from Mecca. That's what we've been fighting. Now, all of a sudden, Igbos have also come into the fray and saying that Oduduwa is from Igbo land, Obatala is from Igbo land, and all those madness, and all those pure madness. And for those of us that understand history, we understand that this has happened to many civilizations. The people that purposefully write lies and rewrite history of other people, and is that they want to lay claim. It is for conquest, it is for annexation, and it is for erasure of the indigenous soul, in the indigeneity of the soul of the people. So let's go back to Sudan. Sudan as a geopolitical country is a creation of the British, was a creation of the British. I can talk about the Mahdi revolution, and I can talk about the time Egypt was also laying claim to Iraq, to Sudan. Like I told you, Egypt and Sudan, those are the homes of pyramids in Africa. So they are the civilization along the Nile. But even though it is no longer indigenous African civilization, because there have been conquest upon conquest of people coming from different parts from the Middle East and coming to change the tone. So Sudan was the people. Sudan, Egypt, maybe 2,000 years ago had a lot of black people. So now it has been Arabized. So Sudan is a product of conquest. So the Arabization of Sudan took place 400, 500 years ago. Non-stop. And what is Arabization? Arabization was that there were conquests, there were fights, the indigenous people were fighting the invaders, the Arab nomads, they were fighting non-stop. So this issue of, when you look at what is happening in Nigeria, the Benue people have been fighting the Fulani people for the past 200 years. The Biroms, the Jukuns, the Chambas have been fighting the Fulani jihad for the past 200 years. They have been fighting this madness for the past 200 years. And it's all about settlers laying claim to the land of the indigenous people. It was not different from what happened in Sudan. It was not different. Look, if Nigeria goes the way of Sudan, it's going to be one of the biggest bloodshed ever seen on the surface of the African continent. The Great African War will be a joke to what is going to happen to Nigeria. We don't want that. And I've not written any piece or said anything about this madness going on in the Middle Belt. But I can tell you, if the killings does not stop, we know how this will end. And it's going to go the way of Sudan. The British created the madness that unraveled in Sudan. And I'm going to tell you why. Sudan, I'm going to first talk about North Sudan and South Sudan. In 1943, between 1920 or 1900 and 1950, the British did something. They ensured that only Christian missionaries were allowed to go to the south. Christian missionaries were not allowed to go to the north. It was exactly what they did in Nigeria. Lord Lugard prevented Christian missionaries from going to the north. And was allowing Christian missionaries to be Christianizing the south, especially Yoruba land. When you come to a space like this, please, you need to leave emotional attachment to religion. Because we are discussing geopolitics. So nobody is I'm not insulting your religion. I'm not trying to spit on any religion. We are talking about history. We need to be emotionally detached. We need to be religiously neutral so that we can understand perspective. And so that some people will not be on the pulpit tomorrow, or some people will not be in church tomorrow, brainwashing us and trying to destroy our reality of our world. So let's go back into the history. So that was how the British was able to create Muslim North and a more Christian South in Sudan. Now, they went a little bit further. In 1943, there were some British diplomats that said, just like they've seen in India, they've seen what happened in India. It is going to be catastrophic to match the Muslim North, Arab North. Let me use Arab North because I don't want to use Islam. Arab North, and use it and mix it with the Christian South and animist South. Sometimes they call them pagans. In Sudan, Because if they do, this country is not going to survive. That was in 1943. And by 1943, the British were already preparing to give Sudan, North Sudan, their own country. In 1943. So that you can understand a lot of similarities between Sudan and Nigeria. But by 1946 and 48, the British people changed their ideology, changed their style, because they knew that if they did that in 1943, Nigeria would not have succeeded. They would not have succeeded in creating Nigeria, because a lot of people would have challenged them. If you did this in Sudan, why are you not doing this, another thing in Nigeria? Because it's not different. It's not different. In terms of civilization, in terms of mindset, northern Nigeria, the core north and Sudan, and northern Sudan is the same. They behave the same way. They behave the same way. They behave the same way. And you need to understand that. So when they brought this thing together, they now said, no, okay, no problem. We will bring northern Sudan and southern Sudan together. That they are now going to administer. Because it's just like 1914 amalgamation. What the 1914 amalgamation did was to administer northern Sudan, northern Nigeria, and southern Nigeria as one geopolitical entity. So what was done in 1914 in Nigeria, where they brought the Afro-Asiatic Islamic civilization from the Connaughts and mixed it together with indigenous African civilization in the south and the Middle Belt, was what the British did in 1948 in Sudan. And what did they do? By 1948, they went further. They ensured that the seat of power, the political power, so that's why you saw that what was not done, what the British could not perfect, which was ensuring that the seat of power was in the south, which was in Lagos. The British now reversed it. The northern military junta in Nigeria reversed it, thinking they are going to consolidate power in the north by doing that. We thank Almighty God, Almighty Allah, that was what they did. So that was why they took the capital from Lagos to Abuja. So in order to be able to say, oh, it is in the Connaught, it's just like using the Sudan platform, using the Sudan blueprint. So the political power base of Sudan was in the Connaught, and by British hypocrisy, divide and rule, British divide and conquer, the Arab North had more political power than the South, by the Christian South, than the Christian South. And that was how Sudan, the crisis for the destruction of Sudan started. It is not different from what happened in Nigeria. The animosity, the fundamentals. And where we saw what happened, you saw what northern region, how big it was, eastern region, you saw where western region, we saw during the negotiation for Nigeria independence, where the north, the core north was saying they will only be part of Nigeria if they have more political representation and power than the rest of Nigeria. That if the British does not give them that, they will never be part of Nigeria. Awolowo was angry and said, this is nonsense. It was Zik that said, oh, no problem. We'll support you. Oh, give them. That's why some of us, it is insanity for somebody from the southeast to be claiming a victim of Nigeria, when we understand that your leaders were part of those who led the entire indigenous people of Nigeria into this big mess. The southeast, they destroyed all of us. The politics they played in Nigeria is the foundation of what we currently have. And if you think they've changed, you are only wasting your time. If you think they've changed their mindsets, you're only wasting your time. It is still the same. It's still the same mindset of thinking what they could not do in 1960, they could do it in 2025. If they are a people, anyway, that's not where I'm going today. So that's where the problem started. And there was a prime minister, then there was a coup in 1960s. Nimeri became the coup, he became the leader. And Nimeri declared, they went straight, they didn't even waste time. They just declared Sharia law on the entire Sudan. And that was the war started. And the major problem Sudan had was that Sudan could not separate religion from the state. Sudan believed, the Arabs believed that they are born to rule Sudan. They believed that Sudan was the estate of their own great-grandfather. That by conquest, Sudan is theirs to rule. And there is a disdain they have towards black people. They believe that they also used political Islam. That according to their own doctrine and theology, it is the Kafiris must not be ruling the faithful. All those nonsense. All those nonsense was the ideology that we had in Sudan. And the indigenous people of South Sudan had to go to war. More than 50 years of war, where millions of people were killed. And this we are not. I'm not going into Darfur. You see, Darfur. The name term "for" also means the land of the black people. That area of Darfur is in the western part of Sudan. It is one of the richest areas in Africa, in the world. When it comes to gold, uranium, diamond, and every resources you can ever think about. But what happened in Darfur? What happened in Darfur was a situation that we had a situation where the Arab pastoralists has been coming in, circling, intermarrying, and laying claim to the land of the indigenous people. So they've been killing, they've been kidnapping, they've been destroying the farms of the indigenous people, just like you have in Nigeria. Just like you have in Nigeria. And unfortunately for the people of Darfur, mineral resources was discovered. Gold was discovered. That's why if you are in Nigeria and they say, oh, your land is full of gold and diamond, you should be in tears. Because Nigeria has a resource curse. Gold was discovered in Zamfara. What has been happening in Zamfara? Zamfara has been in a state of total bloodshed and destruction to this current moment. What about what happened in Niger Delta? The oil and gas has become a curse. The Niger Delta is awash with arms and ammunition. So there's also a resource. There's also a problem going on there. Because what happens is, the pastoralists, they will start saying, yes, our fathers have been here for the past 100 years, and this land also we belong here. And by that time, you would have had people that have intermarried there, whose loyalty is either to the settlers or to the indigenous people. That's why you saw that some people believe, how do we solve this problem in Nigeria? Let us go and destroy indigenous rights. They just want to throw Nigeria into a perpetual state of war. And let me tell you this. Many of our political elites, they are not stupid. Many of them are just being used by external powers in order to change the fortune of Nigeria. I still believe that Ben Kalu should come and tell us who asked him to come and sponsor that bill. We saw that Sultan of Sokoto also came out to say, yes, we need to destroy indigenous rights. In Sokoto state, there is no resident, there's no indigenous people. We are all one. Of course, because the Sultan of Sokoto is a descendant of nomadic herdsmen that invaded and killed indigenous people and took their throne. So it's a product of secular genocide on the indigenous people. It's not a threat. This is truth. This is history. This is history. That's why if you really want to understand the issue of the world, don't go through religion. Religion is just a tool. Look at the ethnic dimension. The ethnic dimension, you need to understand the ethnic politics at play. Religion is just a tool. Anybody can use Christianity for conquest. Anybody can use Isheshe for conquest if you are smart. Anybody can use Islam for conquest. You need to understand it's a tool. It was the Roman Empire that actually understood the power of religion. And they used religion as a tool of conquest. They used religion as a tool of conquest. The Arabs also understood it. They started using religion, Islam, as a tool of conquest, as a tool of expansionism, as a tool of control, statecraft. The Ottomans learned from the Arabs. So when they also wanted to conquer Byzantine Empire, they used religion as a tool of conquest. They used Islam. The Russian Empire also understood it. And they said they need to adopt a state religion. They chose Christianity because Christianity allowed them to drink gogogoro. You know, the reason why Russia is not a Muslim state today, a Muslim empire, is because the Russians love to drink vodka. They love to drink alcohol. And Islam forbids it. So they chose Christianity. That was how Russia became a Christian country. It's not because Jesus Christ appeared to them and said, oh, you need to become born again. No, it's just because of that reality. We want to continue to drink alcohol. We chose Christianity. That was how Russia became Christians. You know, so and everybody's using that Christianity, and everybody's using religion as a form of power. As a form of power. So Sudan, from issue of, and you look at what is happening in some parts in Nigeria, and they want to export the madness into the south. Because I've asked them, you said Nigeria is a secular country. Nigeria is a multi-religious country. Nigeria is a multi-ethnic country. Why are you trying to bring state religion into Nigeria? Like in Sudan. Sudan would have still been one country. But how do you go around and say you want to enforce, you destroy secularism, and you want to impose a theocratic law on indigenous people? They fought back. So when they say, oh, let us stop tribalism, tribalism is not what destroys Sudan. Sudan was destroyed because the Arabs wanted to exterminate the indigenous people. You need to understand this history. Sudan was destroyed because pastoralists, herdsmen wanted to destroy the indigenous people. They wanted to continue to expand. There is a problem in West Africa and the Sahel. You see, all those things we used to read in history, things like conquest, you cut off people's head, you go into places, you rape women, you capture slaves, you sell slaves. That medieval mindset is still happening in some places in Africa. You know, those ungovernable spaces with no government or Western civilization, no government presence. You look at countries like Niger. You look at countries like Algeria. You look at countries like Mali, Burkina Faso. There are thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of square kilometers that are not inhabited by human beings. And there are people, they don't even know the government exists. They don't even know the government exists. And that is just ungovernable spaces. They are still stuck in the 15th, 16th century. Because of this reason, all sort of diabolical Stone Age, ideology still exists in those places. And nature abhors vacuum. Because there is a vacuum, what is happening is that people still believe that chopping people's head, because they stole money, they got chopping people's hands, is still a form of justice system. And that is what has happened. There is nothing you say. These people cannot be redeemed. And that is why you see that this madness is cropping into Nigeria. Look at what we see. And there's nobody that is safe in Nigeria. These people are getting more and more powerful. I heard few days ago, another terrorist organization has emerged in Niger State and Kwara State, from Lakurawa to another one. Now, some of you are going to be in the audience and say, oh, it is because of APC PDP politics. It is beyond this. When we discuss geopolitics, you need to look, APC PDP, in the next 20 years, there might not be APC PDP again. It might be something else. In the First Republic, what we had was NCNC, MPC, an action group. In the Second Republic, MPN, UPN. In the Third Republic, Kiledni, you had SDP. And which other party was that? Now, in the Fourth Republic, you had Alliance for Democracy, you had PDP, you had AMPP. Now, as 1999, goes into JPC. Later on, we had ACN, we had Action Congress. Now you have APC. Now you have Labour Party also in the fray. You also have PDP. So those political parties, absolute nonsense. Stop thinking Nigeria and West Africa and our problem along party lines. Especially as Yoruba people, you are not obedient. You are not. You must be intellectually sound to understand. Especially if you see yourself as an Hawoist, you see yourself as a conservative. You have to understand that you cannot be thinking along party lines. A lot of people do not understand me. And it's like, it's APC today or it's PDP. No, they are just moved by emotions. I'm not moved by emotions. I am moved by the interests of my people. And I'm very careful because I knew what they did to Awolowo. If Awolowo could be thrown into jail, they would try such things with us. There was a time they even made laws that Yoruba Rono should be banned. That's how much Nigeria hates. That's how much Nigeria detests Yoruba consciousness and solidarity and unity. They hate it. It was in the First Republic. They did not break Northern region into pieces. They did not break Eastern region into pieces. It was your own region they broke into pieces. They took the Shekiris, they took our Koko brothers, they took it from us. It is your own. Anything that gives you cohesion is what they want to destroy. If not by the grace of Almighty God, the Yoruba civilization should have gone extinct and destroyed within Nigeria. Because of how much they tried. And some people were the ones who fought and sacrificed for it. That's why you can never call yourself, I'm a liberal Yoruba man. You are not. You are a fool. You cannot. Because you live, your existence is on the martyrdom of people who went to jail, who were assassinated. Do you know the number of thousands of our people that were killed during the Operation White here when they were fighting for Awolowo? Do you know the number of thousands of our fathers and mothers that were killed in the street of Lagos, Ibadan, Abeokuta during the time of June 12 crisis? Your existence in Nigeria is built on the destruction. It's built on the martyrdom of your people. Look, there is no single Yoruba leader that has never been to jail, that was not assassinated, or went on exile. Mention one. Kosi Koko. Intimosoye, Efacheke. Awolowo went to prison. Akintola was killed. Bola Ige was killed. MK Abiola was killed. Parewane was killed. Suliyat Ayedeji was killed. Gbogbo àwọn Lateef Jakande, all of them pátá lọ sẹ́wọ̀n. Àwọn tí ò kú wọ́n lọ sẹ́wọ̀n. Abraham Adesoya escaped assassination by the Whiskers. Wole Soyinka went to prison in Nigeria. What did you say? Funmilayo Ransom Kuti was assassinated, was thrown from the third floor. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu went on exile. He went on exile. So there are three places for a revolutionary in the world: prison, jail, or the grave. So there's none of your leaders that has never experienced those three things. Whether that leader is 100%, whether that leader is 60%, whether that leader is 20%. Torí ẹ̀ làwọn leaders wá fi di liberal, wọ́n sáfẹ́ mi wọn ni wọ́n fẹ́ kàn pa wọ́n nínú Nàìjíríà. Wọ́n sá lọ ni. Our leaders stopped associating with Yoruba identity and consciousness so that they could live long in Nigeria.